Hey everybody, it's Watch Me Work. It's time to get working, where every week we work together and then I take your questions about your work and your creative process should you have a question. So we're going to do what we do every week. We've been doing this for like 14, 15 years. I should get out my calendar and confirm that and fact check it. But we are going to work together for 20 minutes and then I'll take your questions about your work and your creative process. And while we don't really have the bandwidth for you to read your work aloud or present your work, we do have plenty of time for us to talk shop about your work and your creative process. So if you need a question, if you have a question, new work development, Zoe will tell you how to get in touch.
Yes, hello everyone, and welcome to another wonderful session of Watch Me Work. After 20 minutes of working silently on our processes, we'll come back and get a nice queue of questions going. And in order to ask your question, please click the React button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There it will give you an option to click Raise Hand. And if you could raise your hand, we'll get a nice queue of questions going, and we will call on your name to ask you to ask your question. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Zoe. We're giving love to the Public Theater, New Work Development, and HowlRound, these institutions have been supporting us for all these years. Here we go. Okay. All right, all right. That was 20 minutes of working. And now I can happy to take your questions and get into some conversations. Anybody's got a question?
Yes, and just a friendly reminder, please use raise your hand function to ask your question. David, welcome back. Please unmute and ask your question.
Hello, everyone. Wonderful to be back again. I love being here.
Having you.
I've written a farce, a political farce. It wasn't really what I set out to do, but it happened in 2020. And I never sent it out, but I was working on it recently and sent it to two theaters, and I got a reading. Yeah, I'm really happy. I'm very, very happy. I'm not I'm not calling to brag. I'm just telling you that that I got a rejection and an acceptance, and they were so different that it really made me think. The first one said, "We can't possibly put on this play given the current political climate." And the other one said, "Not only do we love this play, but it's a necessary play right now." And I thought, well, I'm not going to say no to any. I mean, far be it from me to turn down an opportunity. But it did make me wonder about the dilemma of having your work put to use for a purpose instead of, being art. And the closer it gets to being put to use for a purpose, the more it smells like propaganda and the more it frightens me a little bit. So I haven't yet felt out the group. I'm going to meet with them tomorrow and see why they think it's necessary. But it does give me trepidation because I want to be relevant, but I don't want to work for a purpose, other than making the best possible play. Anyway, you all understand what I'm going through.
Kind of. I mean, you
Not
wrote.
really?
I mean, you wrote the play, David.
Yes.
You
Well,
wrote
true.
it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
I'm
not
happy
like,
with it.
you wrote it.
Right.
You sent it out there. One group said no. Another group said yes, please. And I mean, these days, even 10 years ago, regardless of the political climate, every work I've ever heard of has been used for some purpose for the presenting organization.
Yeah, I get that feeling.
Whether they're doing, whatever, Hamlet on Broadway, or they're doing a play you've never heard of in a theater you've never heard of, or they're making a film, everything made is to further somebody's purpose. So yeah, if you get invited somewhere to speak somewhere, if you don't get everything. So welcome to the world.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
And you can, the question is, do you like the people, and are you okay with whatever purpose they're gonna be, I mean, are you okay with their agenda?
We'll find out.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
I'll
There
meet
you
them
go.
tomorrow.
That's fine. Congratulations.
I have a feeling I'll let them do whatever they want to do with it because frankly, I mean, that's the way I think it should be. Put it to whatever purpose you want to, whether I intended it or not. However, yeah. But Bruce Springsteen still gets to decide whether someone can use his song at a political rally, right? So there are limits to the amount that art can be put to a purpose that the artist can have some say about. Granted, I don't have Bruce Springsteen's problems, but
yeah. Senator used to follow his plays around and comment. Edward Albee used to follow his plays around and comment. But I mean, I tell people it's my play, it's your production. I don't follow my work around and police people when they're doing it. I just go on to the next thing. But
yeah.
different people have different ways of doing things. But it's great that you got an acceptance letter. That's fantastic. That's what
Yes, I'm very happy. Very,
and you
very
did the
happy.
work. So good for you. Well done.
Yes, congratulations, David, and thank you for sharing the good news. Joy, please unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, SLP, and hello, everyone. Always happy to come to these. My question is maybe a little mechanical, and but it's a short question. I've managed to cut 10 pages out of my play because I knew we had to probably, since our public concert performance reading, I knew we had to cut at least 10 minutes. So my question is, I heard somewhere that you could estimate a minute per page. What are your thoughts? Is that accurate? Maybe there's no shortcut. Maybe I need to actually have people read it or read it all myself with a timer. So any thoughts about?
Yeah, I mean, that's a kind of something that I use when I'm doing a screenplay, a movie. It's relatively accurate. And just like when you read it out loud to in your own home, with a timer, that's probably give you a better sense of how long it runs. And then of course, when you get the actors in there with the pauses and the this and the that, it might change the timing yet again. So I think a minute a page is a great way to measure. And if you want to be more accurate before you're reading, you can read it out loud in your home.
Yeah, thanks.
With a timer, yes. Oh, a timer. Great question.
Hi, Barbara. Please unmute and ask your question.
Hi there. This is my second time. Thank you so much from Canada. So crossing the border.
I love Canada.
Thank you for doing this, SLP. It was so interesting last week's session, and I'm sure more today too. But last week or last session, you talked to one of the playwrights about the process of sharing material and getting feedback, but the question was related to something else, and I was really curious if you had any insight or anything you want to share regards your own process when you're doing work and it's a work in progress and you give it to readers or you have people read it and they give you feedback back. How do you navigate that process?
How does one navigate the process? Sorry, how I do it won't help you, but how people do it might be helpful. I'd say there are different strategies. One, before you assemble those people, as you're assembling those people to give you notes, I would say hopefully you have people who care more about you and the fact that your work will be improving, more so than hearing their own notes reflected in your work. Okay. I heard someone an hour and a half ago say, wow, SLP, you give good notes. I said, yes, because I believe that you know what you're doing. So hopefully your note givers will believe that you, Barbara, know what you're doing. And essentially their job is to, let's see, help you with pattern recognition, help you see the breadcrumbs you laid for yourself, or for those of us that like to go out at night, help you see the patterns in the vomit. And when you go out at night, you eat some pizza, you drink some beer, whatever, hope I'm not offending anybody, and you throw up, and then you go, oh my gosh, now I know what I'm doing because I can see the pepperoni. That's what, hopefully you're going to have someone who gives you notes to help you see the pepperoni in your pizza vomit, because those are the keys. A first draft will give you so many clues. You have to have people on your team who are going to help you recognize what you're already in the process of creating, and not like what it would be if I did it. Those kinds of notes they're impressive, but they're so not helpful to someone's long-term creative process because they encourage insecurity in the artist, which is where the marketplace wants you to be. You don't know what you're doing, but I know. That's where the marketplace wants you. Instead, what we want you is, actually know what you're doing. So let us encourage you to be wonderful and amazing. And that's, so you'll be less of a consumer and more of a creator. I know. So all those things. So you want to assemble your team mindfully. You don't have to be careful, like nervous, but you should be mindful. Like, I know that I'm bringing something to the table that's of value. I've done the work. Like David's done the work. David got an acceptance letter. He's bringing something beautiful to the table. He's going to be proud of himself, and he's going to be receptive to the smart minds that he's gathered, the smart minds and strong hearts in his team that he's gathered. I like to write things down when people are giving me notes because it gives me something to do. Right? There, a lot of people be talking at you. It's easy to give notes. Every person talking in your note session has it easy. Blah, 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 blah. It's really easy to give notes. It's really hard to take notes, and it's really hard to implement notes, and it's really hard to do the work. So just know that people, and especially when they use elaborate phrases and references that you don't even know what the fuck they're talking about because you didn't maybe go to grad school, or maybe you did and you missed that class, or you didn't read that book about so-and-so, this and that. There's so much of the art making things is about craft. It's about heart. It's about smarts. It isn't just about the shit that you learned in some program. Okay, so you bring a lot to the table when you bring your work into the room. Don't let nobody tell you different.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the clarification of that idea that people are pointing out your patterns to you too.
Yeah, they are. Someone says, "Hey, in the first scene, I saw that she was she drank a lot of milk. Whatever. Let's track that through. Whatever, that kind of thing. That's what you want. You want somebody who's going to help you see the patterns. Okay, but have fun. It's fun. It should be fun. It should feel like a good time. Okay, great question, Barbara. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara. Lauren, please ask your question.
Hey.
But let's remember to unmute that button so we can hear you.
He's so good. He's so good, girl. Hi.
Hello. I want to go back. I want to touch on what David said.
Okay.
My purpose. We all work differently. We all have different methods. And we have to respect that. But my purpose is my inspiration. They're one and the same to me, and I can't explain it. Maybe it's because what I'm writing means a lot. It always means a lot to all of us, but it means a lot. So it becomes the same to me. It's my inspiration, and I don't know, my only answer is I think that's because of how personal it is to me. This is a story that I feel I have to tell. We all have stories we feel we have to tell somewhere. And that's what it is. And in terms of the feedback that I get sometimes, my rule is take what I need, leave the rest. And I really try to do that. It's hard because we want encouragement. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, encouragement. And I've been getting a pretty good encouragement, but we almost crave it. Artists crave it. And I think that's fine. I think that's what we need. There's nothing wrong with that. That's my opinion.
That's great, Lauren. Yeah, were you going to say something else? Go ahead.
No, I'm just waving by.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, take what you like and leave the rest. It's a really wonderful saying that we've heard in lots of contexts. Very, very helpful. And yeah, artists crave encouragement. People crave encouragement. People, God, that's what, how many times do you go into a party and someone says, "Oh my God, I love your shoes," and you're like, people crave encouragement. People crave love. What did they do that study 100 years ago, or whatever, when those little bunnies were born and the bunnies that didn't get hugs died? Really,
Yeah, right.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah. Lead with love.
Okay. Well, see, quickly, my play is about a woman. She's the antagonist. She's very, very short, like me, okay, who has dealt with that her whole life because that's the way she was born. And she decides to protest at an ATM machine. This is in 1990 because it's too high for her to use. And what happens as a result, it's not a political play. It's somewhat of an issue play, but that's why it means, that's one of the reasons it means a lot to me. Because I think there's an element of we wanting to teach with our art. We don't tell people that because we don't want to act like that. I don't think as artists, but we do. We want to teach a little bit, just a little. Just a little. We want to entertain, of course, and engage, but I think we want to teach.
What does it mean? What do you mean teach? Define.
Tell people about what's happening that they may not have even realized, like height discrimination, which is a big deal, but nobody really cares about it or does anything about it or talks about it. But that's another story. Okay, that's it.
I like that. I'll agree with that. Sure. Teach, show. They say show, don't tell. Teach, show, tell, inform.
That's right.
Hey, Crystal.
Crystal, please unmute and ask your question. And thanks, Lauren.
Hi. How are you?
Well,
Good. So I'm working on a few plays. There's one that I was working on today, and I don't know if I mentioned it. I don't really know what kind of play it is, in the sense that it's not very. It's about two writers who create the perfect black role, and the perfect black role becomes this muse, this other character.
oh,
And so I'm about maybe close to halfway done. But because it's not like a straightforward play, like linear, or I mean it is linear, but it's not like I'm struggling to find the words for the kind of genre it is. I'm having trouble with the rules of the world that I've created. Example, they create this person, which was an imaginary, a figment of their imagination, and then someone sees them too, sees that person too, and it's like, did I break a rule, or am I just creating this as I go along? So I'm just wondering if there's for plays that are kind of dealing with not necessarily realistic, but just bigger ideas. Like how do I create the rules of the world?
yes, I know. Here's the moment we say, Crystal, you're free. Free you get, more responsibility you have. Right. So, yeah, I mean, if you're creating if you're writing a play or a screenplay or whatever, or a novel based on reality, as the majority of us agree on what it is, then you follow the rules of that pretty much, right? And you break them, and then it's different. And if you're creating a world, you get to make up the rules. They just have to adhere to each other. You know what I mean? You see what I mean? So if they can make up, so if two writers are working together, right? Does that break any rules so far?
No.
Okay, great. I mean, any rules that we agree on right now. Okay, great. Great. Okay, so two writers are working together and they create a character. Does that break any rules? No, because writers do that all the time. Okay, two writers creating a character, and the character becomes a real person, not like a real person in a character like a show, but a real person like in their real life. Like suddenly, oh my God, they're sitting next to me. Does that break any rules?
Yeah.
It steps out of one reality into another one. Doesn't break any rules.
Oh,
It just expands the field of what the rules are. You see what I mean?
I think so.
So you're just expanding your field.
Expanding the field.
You're just explaining like, okay, so this is this is a world in which two writers can create a character that then becomes real to them. That then becomes a real person. Those are the rules of my world. Instead of breaking rules, you're making rules.
Okay.
Does that make sense? You're
Yeah,
making
that makes
you're
sense.
making rules. You're making a list of what can happen in my world.
Okay.
And it just has to adhere to itself.
Can you just explain what you mean by adhere to itself?
Like if they can write a character that so you go back, so you go, they're gonna make up another character, but they're not gonna appear to the writers, do they? Or not? And if they do, why? And if they don't, why not? See that, because that now is something that can happen.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. And okay.
Just like if you're writing a screenplay suddenly and I can walk out of the window and walk on air, that's a rule in this world. I can walk on air. Great.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one who can. You know what, they have to adhere your world building.
Well, okay.
Any like Dune, any sci-fi, any fantasy, Harry Potter, that world building. It's a world beyond, she's making a world.
So is that something is that something I have to explain in the play, or is it something that the audience just like, I mean, I'm already like halfway into the play anyway, so I guess.
Well, when it happens, whatever happens that's outside of, that's expanding your field of what the rules can be, then you will explain it by just demonstrating it. And it's probably surprising because maybe it's never happened to them before.
Right.
So it's something new.
Okay.
And then what else is going to happen? You see what I mean? You're just it's like it's like, yeah. So imagine I'm walking around, I find a teapot and I rub it and a genie comes out. Oh, all of a sudden it's a different kind of play. But before it was just a regular play, and then I rubbed a lantern and a genie came out. Then it's that kind of play. A play where there are genies appearing and the genie says, here are 3 wishes. And then there's that kind of play. And then, you see what I mean? I'm expanding the world. I'm making these rules. I'm making a world that has these rules. I'm making rules.
Okay. I think I got it.
Okay. Well, there's always, like next time we can talk.
Okay. It sounds good to me.
As we have been doing for many years, you and I.
Many years.
Many, many years. All good, my dear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Hi, Alan. Go ahead and unmute and ask a question.
Hi, well, hi, SLP. Hi, thank you guys. It's always amazing to be in this wonderful company. But Crystal has me thinking of this situation. I almost like, and I'm not a math guy, but I was like, I can almost break it down into math. But I think, and I hope this is okay to interject, but I have the idea of the French scene in my head, which is anytime anyone enters or exits, I think technically is a new scene, is considered the French scene. So you have 2 writers, and then they create the perfect character, and then someone sees that perfect character, and they get to see that person see their character come to life. So you have like those moments. So it's like adding up into the rules are being explored as you are showing the reactions. So, but I'm glad you asked this question because I just wrote a scene that I think is like probably impossible to do on the stage, where I flash back to the main set of the first act and then interrupt that scene to come back to the completely different landscape of the second act, which we've already been in, which is, I'm just writing chaotically right now. I understand that. But then I just decided, okay, I'm going to have this other character who's currently labeled a ghost yell from off stage in the middle of the scene once they're back in this new location. So I'm like, oh yeah, just always good to be reminded you can just do whatever you want, especially in the creation phase. And so I appreciate your question, and I hope you I hope there's some help or good explorations in there. I love the idea, and it just was sounds so fun. So I don't know, that's me. I guess the one question I have is I'm dealing with this issue of like being too true to reality and feeling like I'm stealing. And if that and I'm trying to bat that away, but I don't that's where I'm at with it. Just sort of like, please stay away from me with this fact checking or so if you have any thoughts
Yeah,
on
is
that.
it your reality, Alan?
It's my reality. Yeah, I was resonating with Lauren's personal stories. I'm really trying to tell this story that's a familial drama, and so it's like I have people in there that are obviously representative of real people in my life, and
I think you have the right to, talk about your own reality.
thank you. I hope so.
I think we are allowed we are allowed to talk about our own reality. If you can get over the speed bump of like, what will my, insert family member's name here think? I think you have the right to talk about your own reality. That's okay. I think when we start to get vampire-like about other people's reality and kind of take their stories, then
Yeah.
we can have conversations about that. But I think you have the right to talk about your own shit, man.
Appreciate it.
It's yours. It's yours.
Yeah. I did a stand-up show once, and I definitely got some pushback from that, and it sort of haunts me to this day. But
Oh,
we'll move on.
okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, David, please unmute and ask yourself your question.
I don't want to hog the time, but if nobody else wants to chat, since I talked about farce and political farce and relevance and whether a play is currently necessary or can be put to current use, I just want to say I saw a play yesterday in Trenton that was written in 2002. And so almost 25 years ago, and it has deep social significance, but no overt political significance, but without having to update anything other than the technology. I would say it sadly is almost exactly as relevant today as it was probably when it was written, because the time hasn't changed. I mean, the situation hasn't changed for so many people. So something that was deliberately designed to not be really specific, but to address a broad social issue in a particular situation, but not set in any particular town, just set in the here and now, can still be the here and now 25 years later. I think that's pretty cool. Except you have to substitute, landlines with cell phones, but everything else about it was still pretty much relevant today. And I was happy to see that didn't creak with age. That, I mean, 25 years is a long time these days. Things happen so fast. So yeah, I've always wanted to write a play that was always immediately relevant, one that's so universal that you can never think of a time when it wouldn't be useful to be on stage. That's always been my goal. And to do that, I like to try to keep things as kind of generic as possible, not put them in a really particular place and time. I think this play managed that. And it's a goal of mine to have things be specific enough that you can call them particular human actions, but generic enough that you can say this will never be old. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So bravo to that successful artist who pulled that off so well.
Trenton, huh? In Trenton, you saw it?
In Trenton, yeah. The show closed yesterday.
Oh, right on.
It's
Cool.
pretty cool.
Cool.
I was glad
Well,
to see it.
I think specificity, I mean, I think, like you said, getting specific, and it's a mental thing, but it's also a heart thing, I think sometimes we're encouraged in this world to think our way into solutions. But and we leave the heart or the vibrations of the body behind, and to our peril, I think, because we are human beings. At least most of us are, anyway. And once we leave that aspect of our existence behind, then we lose so much,
Am I on?
Yeah, Carol, did you have a question?
It's me still trying to figure out how to work this thing.
You
How
did
are
it,
you?
Carol. You did it, Carol. You crushed it. We hear you. Ask your question.
I just was wondering about, I tend to write about nothing, but then it turns into something on the page. And I wondered if other people do that too.
You just start writing. Go ahead, say it again.
I just start writing. I don't have the thing in my mind that I have no idea what I'm going to write. But I have just having the pen in hand, the paper there, things come out. And then I know what I want to write. Does that happen to anyone else, or this is particular to me?
It's just you, Carol. You're just amazing. Carol's written so many books and so many things. Carol, so yeah, no, I mean, sure. I mean, you're amazing. You have a lot of trust, and you start out, on your journey, and you trust that spirit will meet you.
Exactly.
Will meet you along the way, which is just a great way to create things.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that because I think everyone can do that.
I think it's something that everyone can aspire to do if we do it daily,
We've been taught since early grades to be fearful of writing, so there's like something that we've grown up with, at least in my growing up years. Hopefully they've changed that by this time.
Yeah. I've found encouraging people to write, but we have a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
And then if we can just keep going across that, there are so many good things that come out. If we just get through that resistance.
That's right. Just write that first sentence. See what it is.
Definitely. It's great advice.
I hope that helps. Nobody's talking. Nobody has.
Timothy has a question, and we'd love to hear from him. Thank you.
Silence is cool too, Bill. Come on, Timothy, what you got?
I actually just wanted to kind of jump on behind what Carol said. and asked if anybody does that, and I would say, yeah. I think like you and I, SLP, have talked about this in the past about just like, setting yourself like I'm going to write for this many minutes a day, or I'm going to write this many words per day. And when you start out, you got nothing and you're just there to do it. But a lot of times by the end, you know, despite yourself, you've hit on something. So, yeah, I'm just kind of throwing that out there to be encouraging, I suppose. But yeah, no, that's, and things I picked up hanging out here. So,
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
it.
likewise. Joy, you got a quick question?
Yes, real quick, just piggybacking on this really interesting discussion. I think it's partly about you set out to write a story that's kind of top of mind. It's like the exoskeleton. But as you write, I found in retrospect, the subconscious weaves in other through backstories or issues. And by the end, different people, in the audience will take away different things because it's what jives with their own agenda. So I was thinking about that because this weekend I met with a woman who saw the concert reading of my piece in September. A lot of time has passed in September. She took amazing notes and she shared them. And I was like so struck and heartened by all the things she took away because so it reminded me that different people, depending upon what they're looking for, what they need, may take away different things. I don't know. Any thoughts about that?
Mm-hmm. Sadly, my thought is that it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to turn into a pumpkin. Love you all. Zoe, but what is today? Today's the 10th?
We are not back for the next 2 Mondays, but we will be back on the 31st. So
Okay.
see you then, same time, same place.
Okay, right on. See y'all. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.